Happy Friday, everybody. I'm going on early, but also late. So today I was supposed to go on at 2 Eastern Standard Time, and then I had a meeting that just went long, and then it just got out. And then I made an update. I said, okay, we're going to go on at 2:30. 2:30 is not yet come. I'm about 5 minutes early. So I'm late and early at the same time. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next 30 minutes to an hour. I was hoping to get a workout in today, but it's just been a busy day. I've had a lot of clients, and hey, that's good stuff. Breathing well and feeling well. Papa Geek, if you're still there, Skal, this is some kombucha. I think I'm going to make a fire tonight too. Autumn is here in Indiana. The trees are blooming. The sky itself seems like it's bruised. There's like a bruising of the sky in the autumn that perfectly accents the changing colors of the trees. And so it's just an absolutely beautiful time here in the Midwest. If you're just joining us, if you've never been here before, welcome to the Midwest. So I'm here in the middle of the United States. A place where most people would consider just kind of like a nothing, nowhere land. But I think it's beautiful. And I think any place where you live can be beautiful. I'm a big fan of 4 seasons, and we get all 4 seasons here in the Midwest. And I like all the seasons. But I got to say the fall is probably my favorite. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about breath work. We're going to talk about I'll be taking any questions that you have. It is becoming the season for cold training, and I'm going to be talking about cold training, about some of my coming stuff. Oh, dude, you're making tacos? You are. You know what? I got to say, I'm going to have tacos tonight too. So I will cheers that as well. It's always a good time for tacos. Always a good time for tacos. So we're going to be talking about cold training, about breath work. I want to just say that if you have not tried the Language of Breath online course, definitely do. Go to languageofbreathcollective.com, or you can go to jessecoomer.com and take a look at the courses. The course, The Language of Breath, is available now. I'm actually just working on my book explaining this philosophy. It's a complete philosophy of breath work. Right now in the world of breath work is really exploding. And that's awesome. I love seeing this amazing modality just be shared. The downside is whenever anything gets popular. So, and I'm not trying to be I have a beard. I know, that's a hipster thing too. I'm not trying to be a hipster. But whenever something starts to become more popular, you start to see a lot of spin-offs, and you start to see it kind of being oversimplified. And one of the things we talk about with breathwork is that it's a simple thing, and it's not really simple. Breathwork is, yes, breathing. I mean, you could break it down to simple mechanisms. You have an inhale and exhale. You can hold your breath with a full lung. You can hold your breath with a empty lung or a neutral lung. In pranayama, we call those the kumbhakas. But there's a lot that goes into every breath that you take, and how you breathe every breath is just as important, if not more important, than the technique that you're using or the cadence that you're choosing. So when it comes to breath work, there's a lot of variation, and this is something that oftentimes is also, we see a lot of times people take it into this realm of, okay, so what is it good for? Right? I've had a lot of people say, okay, so to what end? To what is it? What is this breath? I need a breathing technique. I've got a sore tooth, or what's the best technique for this or that symptom or this or that thing? And so what I always tell people is that ultimately, we're looking at ourselves in the wrong way. So we've always looked at ourselves as a mind and a body. And it's kind of this mechanistic way of looking at ourselves, where we're kind of looking at breath work like a remote control. And we do a lot of times look at that. And I used to do it too. I used to be just as guilty as anybody else. So looking at breath work as a remote control, I will send commands to my body, which is separate from me. And if you think about it, I'm going to command my body to do something that automatically your body is no longer you. It's just like I'm sending a signal to this other thing. It's not me. I'm telling my body what to do. I own a body. I am a mind, but I own a body. And in the language of breath, we encourage you, we invite you to look at yourself completely different. So no longer are you a mind and a body. You are one thing. You are an organism. You're 37.2 billion cells working together to function, to thrive, to survive on planet Earth. You're not just this, like in the 90s, we had the Ninja Turtles. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Ninja Turtles where like they had Shredder was one of the bad guys, but then there's this other bad guy who's like a brain. And do you know if he was a brain that he had like a robot legs. I forget what his name was off the top of my head. But yeah, he was this brain and he controlled this robot body. And I think a lot of times we think of ourselves as that. And yes, it is true that you couldn't move around if you didn't have a brain, but you couldn't move around if you didn't have arms or legs, or I mean, it's all connected. It's all it all depends on all of it. And yes, you can lose an arm or a leg and still live, but you are no longer Krang. That's exactly right. His name was Krang. Yes. So points. That is points. That is 1990s street cred, brother. So yeah, the guy's name was Krang, and he was this disembodied brain, and he would have like at the beginning, and this is me remembering back whenever I was middle school age, I think. He would drive around like they were just robot legs, and then eventually they turned into like there's whole robot bodies, and he was in the stomach, and the robot had like missiles and machine guns for hands if they wanted to. It was just this whole thing. Good call. So I think a lot of times we look at ourselves like that as opposed to what we really are, and that is a complete organism. And I know that might be, some people might say, well, what does it matter? You have this, it's like you're splitting hairs or something like that. But in reality, I think it's really important, because if you look at yourself like a machine, if you look at yourself like that, then you're going to treat yourself like that, as opposed to I am an organism. I am a relationship within myself. I am, all of these billions of cells working together to help me survive. And there's an enormous amount of information in those cells. So that is the language that's one of the premises of the language of breath system. So if you're interested in learning the language of breath, that is my own philosophy in breath work. It's complete. So it's not just breathing heavy and hard. It's not just breathing relaxed and low and slow. It's not just nasal. It's not just this. If you're looking to get a complete picture of how breathing influences every aspect of your physiology and your emotions. So this is one of the things that most people aren't aware of. They don't know what their emotions are there for. Like, we'll watch these science fiction movies where you go to like, what is it? Vulcan, where like Spock is from on Star Trek. And if Rye was here, he would know what I'm talking about. Rye, are you out there? Anywhere out there? But ultimately, you go to some place where it's like, okay, we have no emotions. These aliens have, or like it'll be a robot that has no emotions, but they're just like a android, and we envy them. We're like, man, you never have to feel afraid. You never have to feel sad. You never have to feel lonely. Like, and then we're like, yeah, but they never get to feel love, and they never get to feel happy, And we were at the end of the movie, we're like, well, I guess it's worth having the bad, emotions in order to have the good emotions. But in reality, there is a biological function to emotion. So this is what I wish they would have told me at like a very early age, is what I'm telling my son. By the way, because this is a live feed, I can also change subjects mid-sentence. I'm going to come back to what I was talking about. But for those of you who are in the Patreon club, I've just uploaded all the new Patreon sessions for this month. So if you're in the $10 or higher tier, the tip of the month is all of my best advice for you on how to get a better night's sleep, how breathing and sleeping correlate, and how to look at breathing while you're asleep. And it's like, well, wait a minute, how can I even think about breathing while I'm asleep? I'll be asleep. So I talk about that in the tip of the month if you're in the $10 or higher tier. But everyone in the Patreon club this month is getting 2 new sessions. I think it's now 102 sessions. Someone said I have 100 sessions in the Patreon club. I kind of lost count after 80. That's a lot of guided sessions, guys. So if you're not in the Patreon club, join us. You must join. If you are in the Patreon club, you get to meet my son. So this month I introduced breathwork for the family. And so this is breathwork that you can do with your kids if you have kids, and it's completely safe. So you don't want to do every style of breath work with little kids. There are some styles of breath work that are not safe for little kids to do, not just because it's something that might cause them to overbreathe and maybe make them more panicked and anxious, but also because it is a thing that they can abuse, right? So I have a 7-year-old, and I'm not going to teach him how to do these altered states, DMT, style of breath work. I'm not going to teach him how to do these really like far out there styles. I'm like half of the things that we do in the Patreon club are for pleasure, and they're completely safe to do if you're doing them in safe circumstances, if you're a reasonably mature adult. I'm not saying that I'm the most mature adult. I'm waiting for that time to happen. I don't know if that's ever really going to happen, me becoming completely mature. I mean, I will say there is a difference between, I think, what we used to think maturity looked like versus what maturity actually is, though, because I think I am actually very mature. It's and people are like rolling their eyes. Oh, no, Jesse, you are not. No, but I'm pretty sure when it comes to, maybe we get better at faking it. Yeah, maybe you're right. But I'm pretty sure when it comes to maturity, it's a matter of responsibility, right? So if I think the thing is, you can be as silly and as big of a jackass as you want to be, as long as it's not, as long as it's in a responsible way. Like I am a total jackass to a level that is somewhat appropriate and can be appropriate in crowds. Let's see. Pneumothorax. Do you have any knowledge on the pneumothorax, Jesse? Is this having to do with my immaturity? Is that what you're doing? I really don't have enough knowledge on it enough to speak about it, my friend. So, but thank you for that question. Actually, I sort of read it and I thought you were asking me if I owned a tuxedo, because I was kind of glancing over there and it's like, I thought maybe that you're like, no, if do you have a tuxedo? That's how you gauge whether or not you are mature, is do you have formal wear? So yeah, Joe, I don't, when it comes to that, when it comes to collapse long and things like that, it's one of those things. Those are those cases where you should talk to so this is where it's sort of different. So there's breath work and then there is respiratory therapy. And so actually I have a respiratory therapist who is training to become a breath worker. Like we work with the pulmonary system, but we work on it in different ways. And whenever you have mechanical problems, which would be in anything where it's like a tissue damage or specifically, like for instance, a collapse lung, that would be one of the things that you would want to talk to a respiratory therapist about. When it comes to how to use your breathing to improve your focus, get a better night's sleep, have a better sex life, enjoy your life just in general a lot more, those are things that I would be more comfortable talking about. And the reason is, and the biggest reason, Joe, and thank you for asking. Thank you, my friend. And the biggest reason is because one is medical advice. One is considered to be medical advice. The other one is considered to be, I don't know, woo-woo nonsense by a lot of people, but which it's not. It's completely backed by science, but that's the only reason why. But anyway, Getting back to being a mature adult. I guess in that respect, I'm being responsible with the information I'm giving. So maybe that's some of a clue to my maturity. Hey, brother Joe, you have a good day. Hey, stick around with us if you want to. Though we're just hanging out for another. I don't know how long. I don't know. I never really plan these things. I gotta say, I've been working on my book, and right now it's in my editor's hands. So the book is coming out next year in the fall because we're going to have a full year ramp up. And would you believe it? There is a paper shortage now. Like, you know, did we at what time? When did CERN start messing with the Hadron Collider? When did the Hadron Collider thing happen? Because I'm starting to believe we're in some kind of weird bizarro land where everything, it's like, of course there's a paper shortage. Of course, like everything is just kind of upside down. But anyway, yeah. So my book will be coming out next fall, and it's basically going to be the culmination. You're going to learn the language of breath there. Obviously, if you want to learn it now, I do have an online course where I take you through, and there's, let's see, I think it's 7 hours of content. And some people are like, dude, I don't want to do 7 hours. I don't have 7 hours to spare. Well, it's 7 hours over the course of 7 weeks. And so it's 1 hour a week. And hey, guess what? If you don't do the full hour that week, you can just take 2 weeks for that hour and then just continue on. So, if you want to learn, and the cool thing is there's guided tracks. I demonstrate a lot of things. I show you, okay, this is how the breath should look. This is how the breath wave should be. This is how to test your CO2 tolerance. This is how to increase it. This is how to do. So I have a lot of those. And then I actually have guided tracks that you can use that to develop your practice. And so, hey, Brandon, nice to see you here today. So that's the online course, and you can find that at jessecoomer.com in the courses section on my website, or you can go to languageofbreathcollective.com. And actually, just as a PS, I'm about to announce the next class. I'm going to be opening for the next class. If you are interested in becoming a breath worker, certified in the complete language of breath, philosophy of breath work, that's coming out very soon. We're just hammering down the final dates of the masterclass. But if you want to practice with me, if you want to practice the style of breath work that I practice myself, that I teach to my clients, I'll be, man, there's so many things I really can't tell you guys about right now that you're going to find out that you're like, oh crap. Or if you're a snap person, are you the kind of person that says, oh snap? I had like a half hour in my life where I think, oh snap, but most of my life has been like, oh, and then an expletive. So I'm a good person, but I do curse, or at least I don't know. I think I'm a good person, but yeah, I do say some curse words. I try not to curse so much online, and I think it's because deep down I still am concerned that my mother is watching. Anybody else like that? Like if like I don't think she would have. I mean, I'm 41 years old. I really don't have to worry about it too much, right? I shouldn't. She's not going to, paddle me or something like that. But I still kind of worry about it. Hey, JK, how are you, my friend? Good to have you here today. So, hey, guys, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want me to talk about, I'd be happy to. And that's just anything, man. Anything except for, I guess. Like, yeah, I guess if you ask and then I don't want to talk about it, I suppose I can just say I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, so we were talking about, oh man, now I forgot where that was going. Maturity. Yes. Let me resume. I'm going to resume this point. Oh, I did mention the deep sleep thing, didn't I? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I need to talk about this maturity thing. I don't know. Something deep down inside, Papa Geek says it's time to talk. It's time to share. No, but here's the thing. I think you can act as much of a jackass as you want, as long as it's in a responsible way. So like I think you can be a jackass and you can be a responsible jackass. Being an irresponsible jackass is, I guess, the hallmark of being immature, and then being responsible I'm a responsible jackass. And so, for instance, you might be the person who says the thing that everyone's thinking, but I probably shouldn't say that. Uh, but you say it in a way that is somewhat responsible. It's not going to necessarily get people, feeling more uncomfortable. And then I guess you could also be a responsible jackass in the ways that, like, you tell a lot of dad jokes. I tell a lot of dad jokes as a breath worker. I tell a lot of breathing jokes. And, like, for instance, or I do a lot of puns. but, but I pay my bills. I get my kid to school on time. This morning, by the way, my kid, so he's 7 years old. Tell me this. Do you think a 7-year-old should be able to remember to bring his jacket to school or not? Yeah, no. Okay. 7 years old. Should he be responsible enough to say, okay, I take a jacket to school? Now, you already know that I'm a huge cold trainer. You know that I've written a book about cold training. Actually, I'm updating that book. I'm going to be publishing that book as a complete paperback next year as well. I'm in the process of getting all that done now too. So a lot of things going on. But my kid, today it was about 40 degrees, but I think it's about 40, 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I think, around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. There's a pretty easy conversion at 40 degrees, as I recall. So 40 degrees is 4 degrees Celsius. I think that's one of the easy conversion areas. Okay, you expect your 6-year-old daughter to bring her jacket. Yeah, but she leaves. There you go. But she leaves it in the house. Yeah, every time. So the thing is, I'm okay with my son being outside in the cold to a certain degree, right? So if it's like it's going to be what I would consider to be chilly, I wouldn't say it's going to be cold. It's going to be chilly today. So room temperature in Fahrenheit is so Brandon's a responsible jackass. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm glad to have another responsible jackass out there with me. But anyway, I don't know if maybe my son is an irresponsible jackass. Chip off the old block, really. No, so but no, room temperature in Fahrenheit is 72 degrees, and chilly would be in the 60s, and then 50s would be chilly for me, even though I'll go outside in the 20s or in 30s. And so, but I don't mind if my son is in short sleeve shirts and things like that. I'm just buying myself time. You might be right. You might be right, Bobby Geek. The crazy thing is, like, so often, so many of my breathwork friends are in Europe or in what I like to call the South Island of Europe, which is Australia. The Australian accent and the English accent sound very similar to me. I know the difference between the two accents, but as an American English is so different from both of them. Like I feel like, and I don't know, if English, if like Papa Geek, English is a second language for you, so I know you can tell the difference between our accents, right? So an American accent, we hit the R's really hard. Like it's almost like maybe we were all pirates at one time. So we hit our R's really hard. There's some T's that we pronounce as D's. I've gotten to know our language, these variations in English pretty well. But I always feel like the Australians and the Europeans, or the English and the Australian accent, are pretty similar. It's just the Australian accent is I know it when I hear it. Anyway, so every time I talk to them, it's always in Celsius, and I'm always like, yeah. It's been years. I've been doing this for years, and I still have trouble. Anyway, my son went to school today without his coat, and it's not really that cold, but I feel like this is a great way for him to learn or have some cold training. Is there a downside to that? I don't think so. I feel like, I'm letting him learn. I'm teaching him valuable life lessons, and he's getting to cold train. So I feel like that's a win in every case. All right, let's talk a little bit about sleep. And we'll talk actually the primary thing in the this month in the Patreon club is a focus on sleep and a focus on helping kids to learn how to downregulate their nervous system. So this is stuff that I wish I would have known about when I was younger, and we just didn't know. Really, the proliferation of the internet is just insanely awesome. Just I mean, there's so much bad, right? I mean, we can talk all day about how bad the internet is and social media and all that stuff, but I wouldn't know about breath work had it not been for the internet and just my insane amount of curiosity plus the infinite amount of information that's on the internet equals okay, now Jesse is a breath worker and that's what I do for a living. Like it really does blow my mind. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a breath worker. I never saw that one coming. I was, they say that whenever you're a kid, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? I had no idea that being a breath worker was in my future, but here I am. Let's see. It's not anything wrong, but I can get called to the principal. Yes. Okay. Papa Geek makes a good point. This is the issue. So I'm teaching my son using the law of natural consequences to take his jacket to school on these chilly mornings. Now, if it was like freezing temperatures, I would just drive back to the school with a coat before his recess and make sure he had a coat on. Because yes, hypothermia is a real thing. And yes, we need to wear coats, especially when we're little. And I'm not going to force my son into cold training. However, it is true that not everybody thinks the same way. And this is one of those crazy things because there's a belief that if you're cold, right? If you're simply cold, then you are you're going to get sick. Even though we know we can catch a summer cold, right? Even though we know these things. I hope you guys watch my video that I'm putting out Sunday, and it's the reason why we call a cold a cold. Like, have you ever wondered why we call the common cold a cold? So I'm not going to talk about it because I want you to watch my video. All right. So there's my promo, I guess, for the video. But there's so many things that we use in language that have nothing to do with the actual reason why something is the way it is. And so that's one of those things. Actually, in The Language of Breath, my book, and then in The Language of Breath philosophy, that's something that I try to bring a lot of light to. Again, if you want to be early, if you want to get it, I'm only taking between 10 and 20 people into this year's class of the Language of Breath Breathworker program. You can go to, you have to go to Language of Breath Collective.com, the Language of Breath Collective.com. And you can apply to be accepted into this year's class that will, or this coming next year's class, I should say. Classes, the online portion starts in April and the in-person practicals will be in June. We're just hammering down the exact dates of when that will be. But anyway, so this month in the Patreon club, we're covering how to relax, how to get a better night's sleep, and then also how to help your kids downregulate. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot of times when we sleep is mouth taping. And I would imagine if you're a fan of this channel, you've heard of it. You've heard of people mouth taping before. And the big thing is it's very common whenever you're asleep for your mouth to fall open. And because it is the path of the least resistance, then you just start breathing through the mouth. And this can cause a lot of inflammation in your bronchi, your bronchiola. It can cause larynx to actually collapse. It can lead to it can lead to a lot of negative things like sleep apnea, for instance, is something that it can lead to. And it can be exacerbated by things in the air, dryness of the air in the wintertime, especially that's coming up. And so one of the reasons why people do it is okay, I want to make sure I'm breathing through the nose. Now, what I recommend is get to the point, if you can get to the point where it's weird in the daytime to breathe in through your mouth, then you're less likely to fall into that habit. I also myself. Okay, so I've got hair on my face, right? So it's going to be hard for me to mouth tape. So what I do is I take a pillow and I just kind of have a pillow right here. And I don't sleep on my side. I sleep on my back. I think sleeping on your back is the best way to do it. Um, and especially for your posture. And I'm a big posture junkie, and I think the posture is so important. If you sleep on your side, you're just practicing bad posture all night long. And if you sleep on your side, generally you are doing like a fetal position, which is going to lead to even worse posture. You sit down most of the day anyway, probably most of us do. You don't need to have that same position all night long. At least if you're flat on your back, you're able to stretch out, and at least during that amount of time, it's as if you're standing, and it's not as if you're sitting. So anyway, so I usually just have a pillow and I just put it underneath my chin, and that does the trick for me. Now, for if you're looking to get a better night's sleep, this month in the Patreon club, the $10 and up tier, I've got a bunch of information for you there, and basically my best possible advice is what I give you there. Um, but ultimately, just remembering that how you breathe when you're sleeping influences how you sleep. And there's all sorts of research out that points to this. We see people who are in a state of heightened anxiety while they are unconscious. While they're unconscious, they're in a state of heightened anxiety, and they're having the same like biochemical makeup, like the same hormonal profile as a person who is in a high state of stress. And the big reason for this is because we have a lot of breath dysfunction. Now, mouth breathing can do some things for that. And or I should say mouth taping. I'm sorry. Mouth taping to anything to avoid mouth breathing, right? However, it's not going to do everything for you. Okay? So you need to learn how to correct breath dysfunctions. So learning how to correct your breathing dysfunctions when it comes to the breath mechanics specifically. But also, okay, so how are you breathing throughout the day? Because when you train yourself to breathe throughout the day, you're also training yourself. How is your unconscious self going to be breathing? How is the natural breathing rhythm going to manifest itself? So this month in the Breath Club, we have that. In addition to that, we also have the a session just for going to bed. There's research out, and this is just a little freebie for everybody. Okay, this is some very easy stuff. If you want to sleep better, so first of all, the sleeping does a lot for us, and one of the primary things that is overlooked that sleep will do is it allows your cardiorespiratory system to recover. That is when your heart recovers. You all day long, you've got higher blood pressure than when you're sleeping. All day long, your heart rate's higher than when you're sleeping. I mean, this is whenever, I mean, typically, regardless of whether or not you're under a lot of stress or not, even. But that's just how we work, okay? Because the heart has to work harder while you're doing things. When you are asleep, you get an enormous amount of cardiovascular rest. Ideally, your blood vessels are relaxing, your heart's getting to rest a little bit. I mean, it's still beating, obviously, but it's not beating as hard. Your blood pressure reduces, the heart rate goes down. You get an enormous amount of recuperation during that time. So it's essential that you get that sleep. And it also is essential that while you're sleeping, your unconscious self, right? That part of you that is maintaining bodily functions as you are not consciously aware, that part of you needs to understand that you're safe. Because if it doesn't understand that you're safe, it's going to try to keep it so that you're always ready to jump up and run if need be. So if you've ever gone to bed and you were stressed out about something, if you've ever gone to bed and, maybe you had an argument with your spouse or something right before going to bed, you are generally not able to relax and get the night's sleep that you could normally get because a part of you is saying there's some kind of a danger that I need to be aware of and I need to be primed for action, even though I'm going unconscious. And so you're going to wake up, even if you get 8 hours, and it's going to be a lot lighter sleep than if you had felt comfortable. And so what we have to learn how to do, because we live in a world that is full of stressors. We live in a world where, I mean, this phone. Hey, take a look at that. Language of, I got it on everything now. But anyway, is that me being? I don't know if that's mature or not. But anyway, your phone. Your phone has an infinite number of things that you can worry about. It used to be we worried about, maybe we worried about the predators. We worried about snakes. We were worried about spiders and maybe famine, maybe the other tribes and things. I mean, we had plenty of things to worry about, I guess, back in the day, but we didn't have an infinite supply. We didn't have an infinite supply of things to worry about. And, maybe you sent a text and the person didn't text you back instantly, and then you tried to go to sleep. And how are you going to sleep with that? There's so many ways we can stress ourselves out today. And there's so few ways that we're able to use those stress hormones productively. So we find ourselves in a sea full, basically, it's like an ocean of cortisol. And cortisol is awesome, actually, in small doses. It boosts your immune system, reduces inflammation, unless you have it chronically. And in those cases, it reduces your immune system and it increases your inflammation. So it's one of those things where I think it's this is why we have to learn the language of breath. James going, I have a head cold. Oh no, James, I'm sorry to hear that. But looking forward to getting back to my breathing techniques and cold showers. Amen, my friend. So cold season is upon us. The cold showers are getting colder, and I'm going to be starting to make some content soon, which will be more cold exposure related. I've got a secret. I've got a secret that I'm going to unveil with you guys. Let's see. We're over halfway through. So I'm going to tell you now, and then but I want you guys to watch the videos, okay? Because the channel needs the views, all right? So promise me you'll watch the videos. But I will tell you now. So over the past year, since right around March or April, somewhere around there, I have been traveling so much that I have not been able to keep up with my cold training. Yep. And so I realized after about a month or so, I was like, man, I haven't taken an ice bath in like 2 months. What's wrong? Oh my God. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to actually untrain. I'm going to see what it's like for a newbie to get back into the cold. So I'm about to document this process for you. And so you're going to get to see me take my first ice bath in like 8 months. After complete, I don't know how far I will be, I'm not sure how much of my adaptation I've lost, but it's cold fasting, Brandon. You're absolutely right. The thing is, I could have gotten back into it, but what I'm going to try to do is there's sometimes like personal trainers will gain a bunch of weight and then just to see what it's like to have to lose weight, and so I'm working on the paperback release of my cold training book. And I thought, what better way of making sure that this cold training book works and that it actually has quality instruction? What better way than actually take my own advice as I reacclimate to the cold? So you're going to start seeing some content about that pretty soon. And it's one of those things I'm looking forward to it because I miss the cold, but at the same time, I'm a little nervous because, hey, I haven't really taken an ice bath in months. And so it will be one of those things where learning to be comfortable in the face of discomfort. And so I'm excited about it. I'm a little nervous, but we're going to see it happen. So you've heard first. Because hey, you stuck around this long. I appreciate it. Guys, I am going to have to run. But it's been so good. Let's see what we got. Your immune system is your vaccine, in my opinion. So we all need to work on it daily. And a cold shower is the best place to be. James, you're absolutely correct. Cold showers, man. It's so simple. And it's been something we've known for thousands of years. It is nothing new. Cold showers, cold water. And the thing is, our species adapted. The vast majority of human history, we had cold exposure just like every year. Like you would naturally have, about half the year was hot, about half the year was cold. And then there were some places where it was cold longer and some places where it didn't get as cold. But even those places where it didn't get as cold, at night it got cold. At night it got pretty cold. So it's just kind of a natural stressor that our bodies crave and expect. So anyway, so you guys know the secret. I'll be coming out with actually quite a few videos on my cold training journey, coming back into it. So guys, thanks so much for being here. I really am. So I love these. And this audience is so awesome. Thank you for all your comments. Please like, subscribe, share the channel. Let's grow this thing. So guys, thanks so much. You guys all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.